There are certain animes that are just good, and then there are the ones that rewire your brain. Today, I need to talk about one that does the latter. I need to talk about an anime called City, and I'm not just here to tell you it's a fun time. I'm making a much bolder claim. I'm telling you that City is one of the most original, deeply interesting, and brilliantly constructed comedy animes you will ever have the pleasure of watching. It's a show that feels less like a product and more like a rare discovery, a hidden gem you can't wait to show your friends. It comes from the exact same creative genius who made Nichijou, Keiichi Arawi, and if you have ever been blessed by that absolute masterpiece, absurdist chaos, you already know we are in for a wild, unpredictable, and unforgettable ride. Now, before we can truly appreciate this genius of City, we have to set the stage by talking about comedy anime as a whole. The genre is filled with, well, absolute bangers that I adore. Shows like Asobi Asobase, Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, or the legendary college comedy Grand Blue, which we just got season 2 of, are all hilarious in their own right. But let's be honest, there's a common hurdle that many of them face, especially when they travel outside of Japan. So much of the humor can feel specific. It's often built on a cultural foundations that a global audience might not fully grasp. Now, this might not be a problem for people who've been watching anime for a long time, but for someone new, it might feel a bit off. You know that classic comedy dynamic you see in countless animes, the one where a character says something completely idiotic and the friend immediately screams a correction, and maybe even hits them in the head. Shows like Gintama are masters of this, but if you're not attuned to that rhythm, some of the magic can be lost. The humor can be rooted in intricate Japanese puns, gags that revolve around specific school customs or workplace etiquette, or a style of slapstick that just doesn't land the same for everyone. And let me be crystal clear, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Of course, these shows are made primarily for a Japanese audience, and we are fortunate guests consuming their art. But it does create this small, invisible barrier, a gap in understanding that very few comedy animes ever truly manage to cross without losing something in translation. So how does City cross that gap? It doesn't just step over it, it absolutely obliterates it by speaking a completely new universal language of comedy. Now for City, it's this bizarre, wonderful, and almost indescribable mix of what I can only call high IQ baby humor. It's the kind of comedy that feels like it was born in the deepest, weirdest corners of the internet. It's the feeling you get at 3 in the morning when you're so sleep deprived that a single out-of-place word in a sentence becomes the funniest thing you've ever heard. It's like that meme. In the future, humor will be randomly generated, has been brought into life.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Weed eater.
Now that's funny.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's funny because it's unexpected.
The genius here isn't the jokes themselves in a traditional sense. In fact, a lot of times the jokes, and I say this with the deepest love and respect, are absolute dog shit. They're nonsensical, profoundly simple, and often have no recognizable punchline, like in a traditional joke sense. It's a form of anti-humor. The comedy comes from the utter subversion of your expectations. You're waiting for a punchline and instead you get this mundane reality, or you're watching a mundane situation and suddenly it spirals into this surrealist madness for no reason at all. The magic, the entire foundation of the show, is in its, well, delivery. It's in this way the show presents these absurd, often quiet moments with such incredible artistic flair, such flawless comedic timing, and such unshakable confidence that you can't help but laugh out loud. It doesn't need you to understand a deep cultural reference or a complex play on words. It just needs you to have a brain that can be delightfully, completely, and utterly broken by the sheer randomness of what's unfolding. This feels like a style of comedy perfectly tuned for a generation raised on the non sequitur chaos of TikTok. And if you're a millennial or a Gen Z, I'm almost certain this will click with you on a spiritual level. But this kind of fragile, absurd humor is incredibly difficult to pull off. In the wrong hands, it isn't just funny, it's absolutely weird and alienating. The reason every single moment works, the reason it all lands perfectly in City, can be boiled down to 2 words: Kyoto Animations. My god, what have they done with this show is nothing short of a miracle. We know KyoAni for their breathtaking dramas like Violet Evergarden and their emotionally resonant films, but people sometimes forget that they are masters of characters and expression. The amount of charm that's packed into every single frame of City is diabolical. Their famous dedication to character acting is on full display. Characters don't just speak, they emote with their entire bodies, with their tiny shifts in their eyes, with their subtle slump of their shoulders. This level of expressive detail is the engine that makes the understated humor work. And the visuals themselves are part of the comedy. The color palette is so unbelievably vibrant and punchy, creating this cheerful, almost innocent world that makes the bizarre events happening within even funnier by contrast. The direction is pretty much flawless. They'll hold on a silent frame for just a second too long, building a tension that pops into laughter. They'll shift their entire art style on a dime, going from their clean, beautiful designs to a rough, sketchy, hyper-expressive style just to land a single comedic beat. If you want to understand the show's entire philosophy in 90 seconds, just watch the opening. It isn't just an OP, it's a mission statement. It's chaotic, beautiful, and energetic explosion of creativity that screams at you. This is art, this is why you're here. Get ready for a visual journey that is meticulously created to feel completely random. Another studio might have fumbled this, but KyoAni's masterful touch elevates the material into something truly special and unforgettable. Mwah. Let me just give you a taste of the kind of scenarios I'm talking about to make this all concrete. There's a running plotline about a local restaurant run by a trio of hilariously incompetent people. One day, the owner finds a small golden star in an envelope. They immediately lose their collective minds, jumping into conclusions that they've been secretly awarded the Michelin star. They launch into these grandiose fantasy sequences of becoming world-famous chefs, planning a massive citywide party, redecorating and developing an unearned arrogant swagger and everything. And the build-up is incredible. The reality? It's just a pin badge from a local police officer who just gives one to any restaurant where he really enjoyed the meal. The joke is so simple, but the way they executed it and everything around it, and the contrast between their soaring dramatic ambition and the crushing pathetic mundanity of truth is comedy gold. Like, when I say this might not come across right, but if you watch it, you'll understand how much of a genius it is. But one of the other examples is about a character named Izumi Riko. She's a young woman of such breathtaking beauty that whenever she walks down the street, the entire world just kind of stops and admires her in love. Men, women, animals, like everyone just kind of freezes and completely awestruck. Now, in 99% of the animes, you know exactly where this trope would go. It would be an immediate non-stop setup for fan service or horny humor, for cheap, predictable jokes. But in City, there is almost zero sexualization, almost zero. The humor is not about her being hot, the humor is in the brilliant character dynamic. She is completely gloomy, utterly oblivious, and has no idea of the reality warping effect she has on the world around her. This isn't just avoiding a trope, it's a confident declaration. It's a show telling you it's smarter than that, and that it respects characters and trusts its audience to appreciate comedy that comes from clever writing and character interaction, and not from these cheap gags. It's a masterpiece. When you combine a unique style of comedy that feels like it was born from the modern internet, the unparalleled artistic genius of Kyoto Animation, and the writing that's smart enough to be hilarious without ever being lazy or dirty, you get City. So the big question is this better than Nichijou? Honestly, I really couldn't say. That feels like trying to pick between a favorite child. They're both 10 out of 10, Masterpieces that exist on the same god-tier level of comedic creativity. They're not competitors, they're companion pieces showing the brilliant range of the creator. Please, if anything I've said sounds remotely interesting to you, I'm begging you to at least try the first episode. This isn't the kind of anime you go out looking for. It's the kind of anime you just have to experience. It's the type of anime that you only find if someone recommends it to you, you know. Anyway, that's all I want to say. That's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.